Hi, this is Garibay, and today I'm going to be talking about the top 10 honorable mentions for YouTube Dungeons & Dragons commentators, okay? All right, so I'm going to define my terms real quick here. So one, I did a video on the top 10 YouTube Dungeons & Dragons commentators. You can find that right here on my channel. But today I'm going to be doing the honorable mentions, basically 10 Dungeons & Dragons YouTube commentators that didn't make the primary list, okay? All right, and I do want to explain, when I say a Dungeons & Dragons commentator, that doesn't mean that Dungeons & Dragons is the core of what they're talking about. Many of these guys are tabletop role-playing game commentators, but at some point on their channel, they have discussed Dungeons & Dragons at length. And also, if you watch their current content, they talk enough about how to drive a tabletop role-playing game story, how to keep players, engaged, things that are directly useful to a experienced, driven dungeon master. Okay, all right. So let's talk about them. The first one is Roll for Your Fate. Roll for Your Fate is a fate-based tabletop role-playing game Dungeons & Dragons YouTube channel, and it's excellent. They do extremely, that channel does extremely good content of the Fate, specifically the Fate Accelerated and Fate Core. He also does really good coverage for Fate, the Dresden Files Accelerated game and the Dresden Files game. So Roll for Your Fate is really, really solid. And also, again, there's a really good focus on storytelling and, adventure hooks and plot hooks. It's an excellent, excellent channel. The next one is WASP D20. I think that's a really solid Dungeons & Dragons YouTube commentator channel. Also, DeVay Breon Jackson. That's the third one, okay? And DeVay Breon Jackson is special. I like his content a lot. He's got a really unique voice in that. When I say somebody has a unique voice, I mean they're not saying the normal stuff that you get when you listen to a Dungeons & Dragons commentator. And what I would say about that is like, as long as you guys are having fun, that's great. Just do whatever you like, which drives me crazy. He has some really unusual content. One of them is setting, right? So he actually will talk at length, or has talked at length, about Ring of Fire. Now, Ring of Fire is a really unusual game. Ring of Fire is a game that I've had difficulty getting my hands on, right? So one, I know you could just I know the rest of the world just if you want something, you just, go on Amazon and buy it, right? Well, I don't do that. Basically, when I buy my physical books, right, what I do is I go to a friendly local gaming shop, right? So if I'm going to buy your tabletop role-playing game, I'm going to buy it off the shelf of a friendly local gaming shop, or I will get it through paperback swap, and I'll actually swap a book to get it, right? And then the only time that I actually do get books through Amazon, it's when somebody else is buying for me, right? So and this game has really eluded me. I really can't find it physically anywhere, right? So but I really thoroughly enjoyed DeVay Breon Jackson's coverage of that particular game. It's really quite unique. All right, and he's a great member of our community. I really like him a lot. DMG Info, really good crafting, really, really solid crafting. I like DMG Info a lot. He's really boisterous. He's got there's some excitement behind what he's saying. I like him. He's really, really good channel. Okay. Drop Dice, another fantastic Dungeons & Dragons YouTube commentator. Really good, solid content. All right, let's talk about Tetsubo57. All right, Tetsubo57. He has a very interesting channel. Okay, now actually, I actually was introduced to Dungeons & Dragons YouTube commentating by Tetsubo57. He talks at length about Dungeons & Dragons, about all kinds of different tabletop role-playing games, and he is a very skilled dungeon master. He has a really cool cat that comes around and walks around him, and he's fantastic. He's really good. However, here's why he's on the honorable mention list. I am a little bit sad to say this. So actually, and basically, a lot of these channels, they talk about more than just Dungeons and Dragons, and I'm totally okay with that. I'm okay with people who talk about things other than Dungeons and Dragons on their channel. No problem at all with that. But at one point, Tetsubo57, you could tell, like, he really got into politics a lot, right? And he's very strident about politics, and he's really on the other side of politics than me, right? And so I just kind of like stopped watching him a whole lot because just so much it got to, the RPG content was really few and far between, right? So I have a pretty high tolerance for different stuff on your YouTube channel, but there comes a point where, I'm like, okay, that's a bit much. So it's one of the reasons why he's on the honorable mention rather than being on the core group. But I will tell you, head on over there. Anything he does on RPGs Current is going to be gold content. And also, I did want to say he has a really, really robust backlog of really solid, great book coverage, and he does this thing called RPG Musings that are just excellent. Check him out. Very, very good YouTube channel guy. All right, let's talk about DM Johnny. DM Johnny, okay? DM Johnny, tremendous Dungeons & Dragons YouTube commentator. He fully belongs on the actual top 10 Dungeons & Dragons YouTube commentator list rather than on the honorable mention. But he's on the honorable mention for one reason. A while ago, I think maybe been about 2 or 3 years ago, when I came in, at the very beginning, I started watching DMG Johnny, and he talked a lot at length about Dungeons & Dragons, and I really dug his content. But about a month after I started watching him, he quit. He just said, that's it, I'm giving away all my books, I'm done talking about Dungeons & Dragons, I'm going to go talk about Warhammer, and Dungeons & Dragons is boring to me. And I was like, what? I get that people go through life changes, right? But, if you are going through significant life change, to me, I'm not sure your YouTube channel is a place to down the thing that you built a following on. And so that gets really weird, and so DMG Johnny, I wish he had been persistent and stayed on it. He's back fully now. He's really, he's doing his thing, but that event was hard for me to walk through personally. And it wasn't super fun on the viewer end, and so it knocked him off the main list. Matthew Colville, tremendous Dungeons & Dragons YouTube commentator, really solid. He's doing some amazing stuff right now on his channel with a live game. One of the reasons why he is on the honorable mention list is some of his players curse a lot, which I think that kind of detracts points from you. So, I think Matthew Colville is he's incredibly skilled, very talented Dungeons & Dragons YouTube commentator. But I will say this, and actually this goes for a lot of people on this list. I really feel that cursing on your channel is, I care about this hobby a lot. And to me, where you start playing Dungeons & Dragons is 12 years old. Like, once you hit 12, that's when I started, and that's when I want people to start, right? So if you are teaching people how to be a dungeon master, if you're talking about how to tell a great story, this is a fantastic game that I think people should be should be able to be started at 12 years old. So I really feel like if you have a channel, I'm not telling you can't curse. That's not my right to say that. What I'm saying is that consider not cursing. And the reason why is there's a lot of benefits. And one of them is there's a lot of really nice young guys and gals out there that I think could dig your content if there weren't a lot of F-bombs in it, and S-bombs and maybe some other bombs in there. So it's a thing. And so I'm just going to throw that out there, okay? And Matthew doesn't do it a whole lot himself, but he's got some players who do, which is... It's a little unfortunate. I think it's one of the few things that kept him off the main list, and one of the reasons why he's on the honorable mentions list. All right, the last one is Eric Bloat. a very, very talented Dungeons and Dragons YouTube commentator, and he is on and he's on the OSR community. He's really big into old school rules, and he's written some of his own games, right? So brilliant guy, really, really good content, really solid. Definitely check him out. Everybody on this list that I talked about, they're all talented, and I think their channel is absolutely worth your time. So check them out. Thank you. Take care.